The hidden reasons muscle car engines lost their edge. Muscle cars were built to dominate the roads, with engines that delivered raw power and unmatched performance. They symbolized freedom, rebellion, and raw performance. But over time, something changed. Over the years, these icons of raw performance lost their edge, and those engines, once known for their brute strength, started to have issues. The power and features that made them legends began to disappear, leaving fans wondering why. So, why were some of the most iconic engine designs scrapped? In this video, we'll dive into the hidden reasons behind the decline of muscle car engines, revealing how regulations, policies, and industry shifts transformed these automotive icons. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. 1. High compression ratios. Muscle cars were known for their high compression engines, which provided outstanding performance by extracting more energy from each drop of gasoline. Leaded gasoline was essential to the success of these engines because it prevented premature detonation, or knocking. Manufacturers were able to improve compression ratios with leaded fuel, which resulted in more horsepower and efficiency. Legendary engines like the 426 Hemi and the LS6 454 flourished with high compression ratios. However, the Clean Air Act of 1970 ended this heyday. Leaded gasoline was phased out as a result of the legislation's requirement to reduce emissions. Manufacturers had to reduce compression ratios since unleaded fuel was less suitable for high compression engines. The 426 Hemi, for instance, which formerly had a 10.25:1 compression ratio, was greatly altered to accept unleaded gasoline. This modification diminished the engine's iconic status and power output, and in the end, muscle car fans were left with cars that didn't feel as strong and aggressive, which was a serious setback to the segment's reputation. 2. The death of multiple carburetors. Multiple carburetor setups, like Pontiac's famous Tri-Power, were once synonymous with high-performance muscle cars. These systems, which featured 2 or more carburetors working together, allowed engines to achieve optimal air-fuel mixtures at different speeds and loads. The result was a surge of power that enthusiasts craved. However, as emissions regulations tightened in the late 1960s and 1970s, multiple carb setups were increasingly seen as inefficient and challenging to make compliant with federal standards. Manufacturers had to pivot. The complexity of balancing multiple carburetors made it difficult to control emissions, leading to the adoption of single 4-barrel carburetors. These systems were simpler and easier to tune, but came at the cost of performance. Pontiac's Tri-Power, which had helped cement the GTO as a muscle car icon, was replaced with a single carburetor setup, a move that disappointed many purists. The era of multiple carburetors gave way to early fuel injection systems in some models, which offered better emissions compliance but lacked the visceral appeal and performance of their predecessors. This shift ultimately led to the death of most engines, which was quite frustrating for the industry. 3. The straight-through exhaust ban. Straight-through exhaust systems were a defining feature of muscle cars, amplifying their aggressive, unmistakable engine sounds. These systems were designed to minimize back pressure, allowing exhaust gases to escape quickly and boosting engine performance. The roaring sound of a straight-through exhaust became a rally cry for muscle car enthusiasts, which was a sound that symbolized power and rebellion. However, in the 1970s, federal noise laws aimed to quiet these recognizable systems. Straight-through exhausts were outlawed in favor of quieter, more constrained designs because they were thought to be excessively noisy for public highways. As mufflers and catalytic converters became commonplace, engine noise levels dramatically decreased. These modifications had an effect on muscle cars' performance and acoustic appeal. The back pressure from restrictive exhaust systems decreased efficiency and horsepower. The sound of muscle cars became muted, reflecting a broader shift in priorities. Environmental concerns reshaped the industry, which wasn't well appreciated by enthusiasts who cherished the raw, untamed nature of their vehicles. 4. The decline of functional air induction. Functional air induction systems, such as Pontiac's Ram Air and Mopar's Six-Pack, were groundbreaking technologies in their time. These systems funneled cool, dense cold air directly into the engine, increasing oxygen levels and, consequently, power output. They not only enhanced performance, but also added to the aggressive styling of muscle cars with their bold hood scoops and vents. However, noise and emissions regulations in the 1970s dealt a serious blow to these systems. Open-air induction setups were seen as too loud and difficult to make compliant with federal standards. Manufacturers had no choice but to replace functional systems with non-functional scoops or closed air intakes. While these changes maintained the aesthetic appeal, they significantly reduced the effectiveness of air delivery to the engine. The loss of functional air induction systems further diminished the performance capabilities of muscle cars. Engines became less efficient, and the thrill of high revving power began to fade. What once symbolized unrestrained power and innovation became another casualty of regulatory pressures. 5. Rising fuel prices. The muscle car era coincided with an unprecedented rise in fuel prices during the 1970s, largely driven by the oil crises of 1973 and 1979. These events led to fuel shortages and skyrocketing gas prices, making high-performance, fuel-guzzling muscle cars impractical for the average driver. Due to their raw power, big block engines were notorious for using a lot of fuel. Muscle car sales fell as consumers began to value efficiency over performance. In order to adapt to the changing market, automakers had to change course, reducing engines and concentrating on more cost-effective designs. The allure of muscle cars was further diminished by this emphasis on efficiency at the expense of horsepower. The oil crisis had a lasting impact on customer tastes and vehicle design priorities, making it more than just a short-term setback. The muscle car's demise was accelerated because they began to represent excess during a period when functionality was crucial. 6. Solid lifter camshafts. Solid lifter camshafts were essential to muscle car performance because they enabled aggressive cam profiles and precise valve timing. These camshafts were popular among racers and enthusiasts because they offered a fast throttle response and high engine RPM capabilities when combined with solid lifters. Engines with solid lifter cams, such as the Ford Boss 302 and Chevrolet Z28 302, produced legendary high-revving sounds and thrilling performances. But compared to their hydraulic equivalents, solid lifters were also louder and required more maintenance. Manufacturers switched to hydraulic lifters by the 1970s due to tighter pollution and noise laws. Because hydraulic lifters were quieter and needed fewer modifications, they were more in line with changing rules and consumer expectations. The shift to hydraulic lifters came at a cost. Hydraulic systems couldn't match the precision of solid lifters, leading to less aggressive cam profiles and a drop in peak performance. This change had a ripple effect across the muscle car market, diluting the raw power that enthusiasts had come to expect. The muscle car's edge was further dulled, making the transition a tough pill to swallow for purists. 7. The end of excessive displacement. Big block engines, which produced incredible power and torque, were widely associated with muscle cars. These enormous engines, such as the Chrysler 426 Hemi and the Chevrolet 454, were made to rule the road and the drag strip. However, insurance firms started penalizing cars with large displacement engines by raising premiums because of their sheer size and power. These elements, together with growing fuel costs in the 1970s, reduced the appeal of big block engines to the typical consumer. Corporate policies further sealed the fate of excessive displacement. General Motors, for example, imposed a 400 cubic inch limit for mid-sized cars in the late 1960s, forcing manufacturers to rethink engine design. The result was a trend towards smaller, more efficient power plants. The muscle car industry saw the downsizing of iconic engines as manufacturers prioritized compliance over performance. The decline of big block engines marked a major turning point. While downsized engines were lighter and more fuel efficient, they lacked the visceral thrill and raw power that defined the golden age of muscle cars. This transition left enthusiasts yearning for the brute force of the golden era. 8. Mechanical fuel injection. Mechanical fuel injection was an innovative technology that promised precise fuel delivery and improved performance. Chevrolet's Rochester fuel injection, introduced in the late 1950s, was a standout example. This system offered better throttle response and efficiency compared to carburetors, making it a favorite among performance enthusiasts. Engines like the Chevrolet 283 Fuelie V8 showcased the potential of this advanced technology. But even with its benefits, mechanical fuel injection had a lot of drawbacks. For mass-market automobiles, the systems were less feasible because of their high production and maintenance costs. Furthermore, the technology found it difficult to comply with the stricter emissions regulations of the 1960s and 1970s. These systems' allure was further diminished by the difficulty of adjusting and maintaining them, particularly as simpler and less expensive substitutes like carburetors took center stage. By the time emissions regulations tightened, mechanical fuel injection was largely phased out. It wasn't until the advent of electronic fuel injection in the 1980s that the technology made a successful comeback. The delayed rise of fuel injection highlighted how regulations could stifle innovation, forcing automakers to take a step back before advancing once again. 9. The OHC V8. Overhead camshaft (OHC) V8 engines were groundbreaking in their potential to revolutionize muscle car performance. Unlike traditional pushrod engines, OHC designs offered more precise valve timing, allowing for higher RPMs and improved efficiency. The Ford SOHC 427, nicknamed the Cammer, was a prime example. Developed in the 1960s, this engine was designed to dominate NASCAR, producing up to 657 horsepower in its race configuration. It was poised to outshine every competitor, combining advanced engineering with brute force. The SOHC 427, however, was never given the opportunity to demonstrate its worth on the NASCAR circuit. Due to worries about costs and unfair advantages, the organization prohibited the engine before it could compete. The development of OHC V8s in muscle cars was halted by this ruling. Mass production was another hurdle. In contrast to pushrod designs, which were simpler, less expensive, and already well-established, OHC engines were more costly and complicated to construct. As a result, pushrod V8s remained the standard in muscle cars. They were reliable, cost-effective, and capable of delivering impressive performance, but they lacked the technological sophistication and potential of OHC engines. The blocked innovation of OHC V8s represented a missed opportunity for muscle cars to evolve. 10. Nitrous oxide injection. Nitrous oxide injection systems, or nitrous, have long been a favorite among drag racers and performance enthusiasts for their ability to deliver instant power. Nitrous works by introducing more oxygen into the combustion chamber, allowing the engine to burn more fuel and produce significantly more horsepower. Despite its effectiveness, factory-installed nitrous systems never became a reality for muscle cars during their golden era. The primary reason was safety. Nitrous oxide can be volatile if mishandled, posing risks of engine damage or even explosions. Manufacturers were understandably hesitant to include such a system in vehicles sold to the general public. Emissions regulations also played a role. The extra fuel burned during nitrous use made it nearly impossible to meet stringent environmental standards. While factory-installed nitrous was off the table, the aftermarket embraced the technology. Enthusiasts could purchase kits to retrofit their cars, keeping nitrous alive as a performance upgrade. Still, its absence from factory muscle cars meant that drivers missed out on an exhilarating feature that could have transformed the segment. So, what do you think about the reasons behind the muscle car's lost edge? Did any of these surprises resonate with you? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content. Until next time, thanks for watching.